start recording. For those who must watch, here comes, aquí viene, here comes Tomás. Okay, fantástico. Y aquí viene. Y Jeff también. And apologies to, discúlpame, Dorothy, excuse me, Dorothy. I am used to a lot of folks as couples sometimes joining on the same, you know, they either join on different computers or together on the same computer. And I always forget like which people are on separate computers, but I should remember that you guys are on separate computers. Okay. Magnífico. Vamos a empezar. ¿Cómo están todos este lunes? How's everybody this Monday? ¿Bien? Mm-hmm. Bien, fantástico, bien. Okay, vale, muy bien. Vamos a repasar un poquito. We're going to start with kind of, going back over the things that we did for homework. So you should have your book or whatever notes you took handy in case you've got questions. I do plan to start a lesson today on, I hope, 2 verbs, but if we only get to 1, that's okay. 2 verbs that cause a little bit of confusion sometimes, and it's like vocab and context. It's not really a grammar thing. It's a vocab and context kind of thing. Llevar, pedir, preguntar, traer, and all of those. So, okay. And some practice associated with that. But I do want to take a quick look at some things out of the book. We had a little homework exercise, which we're going to take a look at in just a moment. I'm just going to remind you so that we get ourselves in the mindset. Where do the pronouns go? Where do those pronouns go? All those damn pronouns. Where do they go? Yeah, they're the me, the te, the nos, the lo, the la, the le, the les. Well, no matter what that object pronoun is, no matter whether it's reflexive or direct, it kind of doesn't matter what little category it fits in. You know, there are always really consistent rules. So in other words, like an indirect object, where that little le or les goes is the same as if that pronoun is direct, lo or la. Where it goes is the same. You know, direct or indirect, they don't have different positions, but so at least they follow certain patterns. So if you're just talking about facts, what really is going on or what really did happen, you're just using one verb. You don't have like a double verb combo. Then the pronoun is going to be in front of the verb. It'll be the pronoun plus the verb, pronoun in front of the verb. Okay, so that does not change, all right? And that is the part that's hard for us to remember because English does the opposite. We do verb and pronoun. I tell him, por ejemplo. I tell him. But in Spanish, you're doing him, I tell. So for a statement of fact, and it's important you know what you're talking about, just talking about what's going on, whether it's now or future or past. You've only got one verb, it'll be pronoun and verb. And that's harder for us because again, opposite of what we do. Not I tell him, but him I tell. So you've got examples like this. Les digo que no. I tell them not to do something, right? Les digo que no. The que no just means not to. Les digo que no. Te digo la verdad. I tell you the truth. The te comes in front of the digo. You, I tell. Yeah, and that in English word order, it's, you know, it sounds messed up. Les cobro 40 pesos. I'll charge you 40 pesos if somebody's giving you a rate for something, right? Le damos una propina. We're giving him a tip, or maybe we're giving her a tip. So those go in front of the verb. These little things that are underlined are not reflexive, right? The pronoun only matches up in the same form of the verb if it's a reflexive kind of combo. Otherwise, les and digo, that's a yo form. They're not going to be in the same form, right? the pronoun and the verb are only going the same form if it's reflexive, like me lavo las manos. Me meaning a form for, and lavo meaning I'm doing it, right? But for the other things that are not reflexive, the verb will be in a very different kind of form because it tells who does it. The verb always tells who does it. The pronoun here in front tells who you're doing it to, okay? So the little pronoun receives the action. It does not do the action. Okay. Sometimes the little pronoun, however, has two possible places it can go, and both are okay, both are correct. One is not more common than the other. People will just say whatever they feel like. So when can that happen? That can happen when I've got two verbs working together, not talking about separate actions, but things like somebody is going to do something, somebody can do something, somebody wants to do something, somebody needs to do something. Those kind of two verb combinations, that means you conjugate the first and the second one is an infinitive, doesn't get conjugated. Those have two correct positions for the pronouns, right? So it can go in front of the verb just like you do in a plain old sentence. Le vamos a decir todo. We're going to tell them everything, or we're going to tell him everything. We're going to tell her everything. Or I can choose to tag the le onto the end of that infinitive decir. And it does get tagged onto the end. It is all one word. It's all said as one word. Okay, so le vamos a decir todo means the exact same thing and is just as correct as vamos a decirle todo. They're both okay. Le puedo enviar la cuenta. I can send the bill to him or to her is the exact same meaning as puedo enviarle la cuenta. I can tag the le onto the end of enviar because enviar is an infinitive, okay? So the thing to think of is that if you're going to tag something on, the infinitive is where it gets tagged. It's the caboose on the end of the train, yeah? You can't say something like puédole, right? It's puedo enviarle. Okay. Or te quiero dar esto, te quiero dar esto. I want to give this to you. Te quiero dar esto. Or quiero darte esto. Quiero darte esto. I can tag it on to the dar infinitive. So any of those are permissible. You have a choice. Okay. And the last thing to remember, because you hear these a lot, these are commands. When somebody tells you do something, and we think of command as being very formal, but you do commands all the time. Give me this, tell me that, pay me with a credit card or pay me with a check. I don't care. Those are all commands, right? Command means you're telling somebody do it. And now this is important because negative commands will do something else, okay? Affirmative commands, meaning you're telling somebody, hey, go do it. We have to attach it. You don't get to choose. You do attach the pronoun to the end of the command and make it all one word. Okay, so that's a thing when people are talking to you. You know, that's why when I gave you that little butterfly Spanish, really long video, where she had a whole bunch of commands with, largely with reflexive verbs, you know, things like sit down, siéntate. You often hear a lot of these verbs being used as a command. And when we use them as a command, we don't get to choose, we have to tag it onto the end. Now, that is in terms of word order, that's easier for us because that's what we do in English. This is what we do. Bring me. Same word order. Okay, so traiga is a command. Tráigame, bring me. Dígame. Diga is a command. Dígame, tell me. So that word order for commands that say do it, that's easy for us to remember. The word order is what you expect it to be in English. Póngame una cerveza. Put a beer in front of me. Okay, a lot of people, instead of saying bring me a beer, might say póngame. Put it here. Póngame, okay? Vale? Do you have any questions on these things before we move on to el libro? No? Nada? Bien? Okay. Magnífico. Vamos a ver. I just want to do that as kind of a little reminder. Let's take a look at ejercicios.
I did have a question.
Sí, sí, dime.
Are the commands always in the third? Are the commands always in the third person singular?
No. Commands, qué buena
Okay.
pregunta. Commands are all, well, no, I'm not going to say always. Commands are usually second person because you're talking to somebody, you are addressing someone. You're not talking about them detached, you're talking to them. But here's where it gets complicated, and here's why I haven't done this yet. We probably need to do this soon. Commands might be for tú, because that's one you, right? But commands sound slightly different if they're usted. And commands sound slightly different yet if they're for ustedes. Okay, so commands, tú, usted, ustedes. Commands look like they should go into three forms, right? That's not quite right. Commands go into this many forms. That's why we haven't done it yet. Okay, so let's make it easy. You expect there's going to be a tú, there's going to be an usted, there's going to be an ustedes. Usted commands are always one thing. Ustedes commands are always one thing. Tú commands, the verb does one thing. If it's go do it, it does a different thing if it's don't do it. So spit into this jar is one thing, but don't spit on the street is a different thing. Go figure. It's weird. That's why we haven't tackled that yet.
Okay, sorry I asked.
No. You don't be sorry you asked. Not at all. Don't be sorry. Never be sorry. Never apologize. Okay. So actually, where commands are easy to understand are if they're a tú command that's go do it, because it's going to sound like the verb without the S on the end. Okay. So, okay, por ejemplo, I offer you this cup of coffee and I want to say, take it. You know, you're used to tomar. You're used to tomar being tomas for tú, right? Tomas, bebes. You're drinking, bebes, you know, everything ending in a S sound, right? Just take away the S. Toma, take it. Bebe, drink. Come, eat. Not hard, right? Not hard, okay? For usted, instead of toma, we switch to the wrong vowel. Tome. Not toma. Toma, to a friend, toma. But the waiter comes up with the tray with all your drinks and he says, tome, because he doesn't know you and he wants a tip. So he doesn't want to, you know, sound rude. So he's going to use an usted command, tome, at the end. It's tomar, an AR verb. Sounds funky, yeah? Es buena pregunta. That's a good question, though. We should do that soon. Yeah, commands are something that we actually use way, 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 way more than we think we do. Any exchange you do in a store or an office setting often use commands, because you tell somebody in a meeting, oh, here, take these, oh, here, have these papers, Open to page, oh, you've got a presentation, open to page da-da-da-da in your, yeah, okay. Or you tell somebody, hey, get me that file. Or you ask somebody, please look up my appointment. You're in a doctor's office, right? All those things are commands. Because you're not saying, oh, the receptionist is looking this up. You're saying to the receptionist, and this is why it's second person, okay? You're saying, hey, look up my appointment, please, right? So commands are always second person. Now there's one exception. Commands might be first person, because sometimes we say, let's do something. And if you say, let's go, let's drive, let's eat, that's a we command. And then it's first person. But it means we're all in a group together. Yeah. So we'll leave that for definitely another day, because that's the other commands are kind of important. Okay. Es buena pregunta. Es muy buena pregunta, Jeff. It is really an excellent question. Okay. Vamos a ver. Let's take a look at this puppy. Estamos en la, or a menos. Wait, I should stop. Any other questions before I go on? I don't want to cut somebody off. No. Okay. I know those verbs are pesky, aren't they? There's always something to mess you up. Okay. We were looking at 168, 168. Am I right? Do I have the right page number here? Yeah. I picked the easy one because I didn't want you to do the double up thing. Yeah. We'll do that in a minute. And then we're going to leave off with this for a little bit. Okay. Y al fondo, at the bottom of the page. Al fondo, fondo. That means the bottom. Okay. Ella wants to tell. Oh, wants to tell me. Okay, so she's doing it, ella. Let's just think about the wants to tell. ¿Cómo se dice wants to tell? And you should take yourselves off of mute.
Me quiere.
Quiere. Quiere decir. And now we just have to swing in the me part. And that'll be the little word me. Now, because it's quiere decir, there are two places I can put that word me. And I'm still correct. I can either say, me quiere decir, or quiere decirme. And maybe I should bring this up on the whiteboard so that you can see what it looks like. Quizás es mejor. Maybe that is better. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. It did not like, and I need to get my Spanish keyboard up. Okay. So, and I can leave the ella in. I can leave it off. Ella me quiere decir. Or ella quiere decirme. Now there is another verb we can use for tell a story, because after that it has un cuento.
Can you use contarme?
Sí. Excelente. You can use contarme. So if you did not use decir, and this is why I pulled up the screen, ella me quiere contar, or Ella quiere contarme. Yeah, either verb is cool. Either verb works. Both of those mean to tell a story. And really more because we've got that word cuento. Cuento means not just like a little bit of information. You know, cuento is a story. So they're probably going to be relating, he said, she said, then he did, then I did. You know, it's going to be like a whole series of events because un cuento is a story. And that means, you know, you have events unfolding. So contar is probably even better than decir, but you know, either one works. And now we need to know, and now we need to use going to lend. Patricia is going to do it. So we have to conjugate the going to for Patricia. Somebody want to chime in what we should do for this? Patricia.
Leave.
Ba, right. Ba a prestar. And now we've got an a usted, and they didn't tell which pronoun to use, but we know it's a usted. So va a
Le.
a prestarle a usted. And that a usted is just a clarifying phrase. You know, if there's not enough info in the context leading up to it, you might need to define it. So people use an a phrase to clarify who they mean by le if they think you need it. They might use it, they might not. Patricia va a prestarle su guitarra, her guitar. Or I can switch that le up in front of the verb and then it becomes Patricia le va a prestar su guitarra. Interestingly, in Spanish, there is no word for borrow. There is no word in Spanish for borrow. You have to use lend. Prestar is lend or loan. There is no word for borrow. That is what they use because that's what's happening when you borrow something. It's just that you're on, you know, the other end of it. Okay, magnifico. Oh, and we've got a quien. When you conjugate for quien is this many people. We don't know who that person is, but whoever it is, they're a onesie. Okay, so going to write, we need to conjugate going to for quien. It becomes
Va a escribirle.
Sí, ¿quién va a escribirle a su familia? And the a su familia tells who, which pronoun we use. We need the pronoun le. But that le can be va a escribirle, or it can be, tucked up in front, like we usually do. Le va a escribir a su familia. Either way is good. Either way works. Okay. We're going to sell. We're going to sell. So the we're going to has to go according to nosotros. Vamos a
venderles.
Excelente. Vamos a venderles a sus amigos. We're going to sell the house to his friends or to her friends, a sus amigos. Okay? Bien. But that les can swing up in front. It can be les vamos a vender a sus amigos. Either way works. Either way works. And I leave out the nosotros. The nosotros is mostly there really just to tell you who to conjugate. The verb for, right? Most of the time we don't say nosotros vamos a vender. You can, but most people will not bother to do that because it's frankly too much work. Okay.
Pregunta.
Sí, dime.
So the a phrase always precedes the direct object. That a sus amigos.
Oh, The casa part is where you're quite right.
Right. So the casa part, that would always be at the end, or the
I would
a
say-
sus amigos?
Es buena pregunta. That's a good question. Es flexible. You have some flexibility
do.
there. Yeah. Vamos a venderles la casa a sus amigos. Yeah. You could do that too.
Do either way.
People,
Okay.
yeah. I've heard people do that both ways. The a sus amigos might be a little more common because it's kind of closer to that les. So, you know, you're kind of like hooking up that clarification right after the les, closer to it word-wise, but either way would work.
Either way. Okay.
Es buena pregunta. That's a good question. Okay.
Una pregunta.
Sí, dime.
This might be something you've already covered, but it just isn't clear to me. On the very first one, quiere
sí.
decir,
Sí.
you don't have an in between there, but then you go va, you know. So why do we have that there?
Okay. Quiere decir, quiere contar, va a prestar. What is this thing doing there? Es la pregunta. That's the question. What the heck is that and why do we need it? The wonderfully helpful information, I'm being sarcastic, that was given to me when I was 14 years old is that ir takes the word a. What? Ir takes the word a? Okay. Some two verb combinations have nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some two verb combinations need a little word in between. And you know what? When we get done with this exercise, I'll show you some different combos.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you just have to know.
Okay.
So the nasty question comes up is like, shoot, if I don't know there is a word in between, or double shoot, if I use the wrong word in between, does somebody know what I mean? Well, they probably will, but they're going to have to listen a little harder and their brain will be processing a little bit of, you know, there'll be a pause, there'll be a little hitch in their understanding because you messed up. But will they understand the general? Yes, they will. And so you know what, when we're done with this, I'll clear the screen and we'll come back and look at some of those. And that's always a good question because, you know, we're at all different stages of learning this. And sometimes it's hard to know what to do with these. And we've got a lot of ir examples because that's so common. Why are there so many ir examples here using vamos and va and van and all the, why are there so many? Because so often we use ir plus that little word a plus infinitive. So often we use it to talk about what will happen, what's going to happen in the future. So out of all these combinations of two verbs working together as one, ir plus a is probably one of the most important. It would be like one of the top 3 to 5, because anytime you want to say like, we're going to go to the office, we're going to go to the train, but we're not doing it yet, we're doing it in the future. You need that ir a infinitive combo. It's important to talk about what will happen, but hasn't yet. So, you know, it depends on what mean. And if you need to convey future, that's what you need to know. Okay. El último ejemplo, the last example, they use yo. I'm going to drop the yo. The yo is just there to tell you what to do with the verb, right? And it's want to, oh, we got want, and we have to conjugate want for yo. So it becomes quiero, right? Oh, quiero is like super terrible. Quiero, oh, to them. Prestarles, muy bien. Quiero prestarles a ustedes mi bicicleta. And here again, we have the a ustedes kind of closer to that les word so that we know. You could say, quiero prestarles mi bicicleta a ustedes. You could. It's a little bit flexible, but this is probably a little more natural. Okay, we can swing the les up in front of the quiero, and it's equally good. Les quiero prestar a ustedes mi bicicleta. Although, why would you loan your bike to a whole bunch of people? How are they going to ride that? I don't know. Les quiero prestar a ustedes mi bicicleta. Okay, so we've got that. Bien. And I've got the screen in front of my face, so if you've got your hand up, I can't see it. If you've got a question about any of those, pipe up. Tell me now. Díganme.
No.
No? Okay. Let's take a quick look. I will clear this. Let's take a quick look at that question, which was a good question about what to do with those double verbs. What kind of combinations are possible? Because this has nothing to do really with the pronoun, but that's okay. Es importante, it's important. Quite often, we double up verbs. We're not talking about two separate action, like I'm going to ride. I'm going to walk. Mejor, better example. I'm going to walk. You never say, I walk. I'm going to walk to the park. I walk to the park. Nobody says that. I'm going to walk, right? So what's helpful here is that I'm going tells who's doing it. And to walk is still to walk, an infinitive. And they do the same kind of structure. The verb that goes first, the first verb does the talking. The second verb just hangs out. It doesn't do anything. That means it doesn't conjugate. So voy a caminar al parque. I'm going to walk to the park. Okay. So whenever you've got a two verb combination, the first verb is conjugated. The second one stays as an infinitive. You do nothing at all to it. But some of these combinations need an extra thing, an extra word. Let's look at the things that don't. And I'm probably going to leave something off the list. Let's change this idea of caminar around to use different verbs, different combos of two verbs. Quiero caminar. I want. Ooh, I uncapitalized is very bad. Oh, is even worse. I want to walk. Okay. No little word needed in between. Necesito caminar. There's another example. I need to walk. Necesito caminar. I don't need any little word between. Debo caminar. I should walk. Okay. Puedo caminar. I can walk. None of those need a little word in between. And you just need to, well, you don't need to know that. You just use them. It's cool. It's okay. But anything using the verb ir must get that word a and then the infinitive. That little word a has to be there. And by the way, if the combination is va a caminar, nobody's going to separate them and pause between each word, va a caminar. It's going to come out sounding like this, va caminar, va caminar. They're just going to drag out the a sound a little bit more, va caminar, right? But you'll hear it more if it's, because now it's a separate sound. It's not va, it's voy a caminar. Voy a caminar, it needs an a. Here's another one that needs an a. Empiezo a caminar. I'm starting to walk, meaning I'm not finishing, I'm just starting to do this. Empiezo a caminar. Another word that means the same thing as empiezo, comienzo a caminar, means the exact same thing as this. They're just two verbs that are synonyms. They mean the same thing, like start and begin mean the same. If I say, I'm beginning to walk, well, okay, you might say I'm starting to walk more naturally, but they mean the same thing. Okay, they've got two verbs too. Empiezo a caminar, comienzo a caminar. If I'm talking about un bebé, a baby, el bebé, it might be el bebé comienza a caminar, right? He's starting to walk because babies are just starting that. It might be el bebé aprende a caminar. He's learning to walk. Yeah, aprende a. La mamá le enseña a caminar. The mom is teaching him to walk. Oh, and there's where le comes in, because you're teaching a skill to him. Okay, we say you're teaching him, but you're teaching the skill to him. What you're teaching is the skill of walking. That's a direct object, and it kind of really isn't a direct object. See.
Just a quick clarification question. We only need the with people, right?
No. I can see where you're getting confused.
So if I said the car is starting to roll down the hill, I would need the
You need the This is not the personal. It sounds like the personal. It is written as the same personal, but it is not the personal. I can see why you're having a question about this.
Thank you.
So in other words, what this speaks to is that is used in many different, has many functions. It's used in many different ways. It has many different functions. The function with this is not the personal, because there's no human being after that little word okay? It is not like veo a mi vecino. It's not that I mean, it is that but it's not being used in that way. Veo a mi vecino, I see my neighbor. I see my neighbor. And that when you're thinking in English, doesn't even translate to anything at all. Well, actually, some of these don't really either, but this is the personal. We have a human being who's receiving the action of being visually, zoned in on. Okay, but that is not at all the same thing as these words up above. All these words are just there because the first verb, when I combine it with an infinitive, the first verb just, it has to be followed by this word. So in other words, you kind of just need to get a feel for which words take an Yeah, okay.
So it's any word that would need a to after it, yes?
No.
Actually, these were, we think of as meaning to in the direction of. However, this word again really doesn't mean anything because caminar already means to walk.
To walk.
Yeah. So really, what I'm telling you, I guess, is that sometimes has no translation in the English meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to make it mean something.
It doesn't, yeah. And you know what? It is very natural to say, I really want this to mean something. If you plug it in, it's a whole lot of nothing. Yeah. It's just that you kind of need to know which verbs, this verb, if it's combined with a second, needs a. This verb, if it's combined with a second one, needs a. This verb, if it's combined with a second one, needs a. And ditto. This, if I combine it with a second verb, needs a. They're just followed by a. And is not the only one. There are some other verbs. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'm just going to show you a couple of examples. Here is the most obvious example of something that will, look, all of these needed nothing at all.
Right.
All of these needed a. And this is the most glaring, most obvious one that you know that has a word that is not a, but you have to have it. Tengo que caminar. I have to walk. And that word que, just like the a here, the a here, this que really means nothing at all when you translate it. It doesn't get translated. It is just the word sequence that is needed. Why do we need a que? We need a que because this first verb is tengo and it's indicating an obligation. Not a possession, but an obligation. So, okay, the first verb you use in that two verb combo might need nothing at all in between, might need the a word to be the white Oreo center in the cookie, might need the word que to be the white middle in the Oreo cookie, might even need to be a different word altogether. Let's say you just got off of crutches, or you have an injury. Trato de caminar. Or you're completely tuckered out because someone just took you on a 5-mile hike, 1,400 feet elevation, and you're not sure you can go on any farther, but you're going to give it a go. Trato de caminar. Trato de caminar. Not a que, not an a, but this word, de. Let's look at what happens. Let's take this trato. Trato, trato, trato. Let's take this. Move it up front a little bit more. Trato de caminar. Let's put it into something that actually needs a pronoun so you can see what would happen. Oh, you get frustrated with somebody. You're talking with them and they're not understanding what you're saying because you messed up a bunch of vocab words or whatever, or they're just dense or who knows what. And you want to say, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you, right? Trato de decirle a usted. I'm trying to tell you. Trato de decirle. But because it's a two-verb combo, I could also say, le trato de decir. So the same rule holds. Trato de decirle, I can tag it on. Or I can move it up in front of this first verb. Le trato de decir. Okay? Bien? Okay. So this was actually a good question. Sometimes you will hear no little word in between the two verb combo. Sometimes you will have the word a, sometimes de. You just need to know which they are. The most common are probably that tengo que combination or the ir a combination or the no word in the middle at all combination.
I have a question.
Sí, dime.
So, how you gonna like, decide that I'm going to use with a or the or k.
Mhm.
So it's like, is there any specific rule
No,
to no?
you just
So
have
you
to
just
know.
we just have to know.
But the good news is there aren't that many that use de.
Mm.
But a lot of, you might want to say try, and then try to needs trato de. There is, by the way, another word that means try. Instead of tratar, it's intentar. Intentar, even though it means the same thing as tratar, doesn't need a second word in between. So what you're saying is there some sort of logic that will help me know which?
Yeah.
No,
That's right.
sadly, there's not.
Oh,
Sadly,
dear.
there's not. However, if in doubt, just use the two verbs. I would say if in doubt. What are the key things for you to know, to not mess up on? Here's what you should not mess up on. Tener. Don't mess up on tener. Tener uses that little word que. Tengo que estudiar. Tengo que salir. Tengo que ir. Tengo que escuchar. Tengo que escribir. Tengo que. Tengo que should be stamped in your brain as tengo que. If you want to say I have to. Okay. So don't mess up that. Just know tengo or tenemos or, whatever form of tener it is, always has to have que. Tengo que, tenemos que, tienes que. Tienes que escuchar. You have to listen. Okay. Bien. What other ones should you know? That ir always needs a with the infinitive. Know that one. So in other words, do you have to memorize every verb? No. Right now, that's probably not a good use of your time and your effort and your brain sweating over it. So here's what's worth the sweating over. Tengo que, tenemos que, tienes que, that's worth sweating over. Voy a, vamos a, va a, van a, that's worth sweating over. Because those two are super, super common. Because they're super common. Okay, because many times we talk about what we have to do, and many times we talk about what we're going to do. We haven't, and when we want to talk about near future, right? So those are important to know because when you do that combination, people will understand you and it'll just flow. If you say, vamos a escuchar, it sounds like something is a little amiss to them. They'll know what you're saying, but it'll sound off. Okay. And the other ones, assume you put them together. And if you mess up, somebody will get the general idea. Yeah, good? No, that doesn't make you feel that. We all desperately want a rule. What governs this? Sometimes nothing, it's arbitrary, isn't it? It's totally arbitrary, completely arbitrary. Así es, so it is. Okay, a ver. Vamos a ver. Let's take a look at, ooh, before we take a look at the reading, I want to look at the reading next to see if you have any questions about it. 175. But before we start on that little reading, el viaje, because they did use a few pronouns in a way that we haven't used them, but that's okay. Okay, before we start on that, and before we leave this, are there any other questions about what we just reviewed? Nada. Okay. Let's take a quick look at el viaje. I would like to give some people a chance to read a little bit out loud so that you can read little segments. I would say take 2 sentences each if you want to volunteer to do that. And it's a good way for me to hear some of you speaking. Okay. El viaje means the trip, right? Viajar es to travel, the trip, el viaje, and they're going to use these me, te, nos, les. Some of them are used in the way you expect. Some are a little bit different. The me gusta is a little bit different than the other ones, and the me fascina is a little bit different, but that's okay. Bien. Un voluntario. So, do I have a volunteer to hit the first two sentences? Suai first, and then we'll take Tomas after Suai.
Me gusta viajar porque cuando viajo no soy de aquí ni soy de allá. Me fascina la idea.
Idea. I know, we want to say idea. Idea. Yeah, we pronounce all those letters. Idea. Me gusta. I like to travel because when I travel, I'm not from here nor from there. The idea fascinates me. Me fascina is just like me gusta. Something is a certain way to me. Me fascina. If the idea fascinates me. Tomás, continúa, por favor.
Pienso ir a Italia. Me dicen que es un país maravilloso, el más bello del mundo.
Okay. And now I'm going to help you over a couple of these words. Okay. Here's the combination I want you to work on that second sentence, Tomás. Me dicen. Me dicen.
Me dice.
Me dicen. And when people say that, they'll say it. It'll sound like it's one word. Me dicen. Me dicen. And that long word is hard. So sometimes you got to slow it down a little bit and take it by syllable. Maravillosa. Maravilloso. Or maravilloso. I'm sorry, it's the masculine verb. Maravilloso. Maravilloso, marvelous. But it's a lot of syllables. Maravilloso. Pienso ir a Italia. Always be an right? Never an A. Pienso ir a Italia. Pienso ir looks like it means I think to go, but it doesn't really mean I think to go. Look, two verbs next. Plan. When we take pensar, meaning to think, mentally think, pensar next to an infinitive changes the meaning of pensar. It then becomes to plan or to intend to. To plan to intend to. I plan to go to Italy. They tell me, me dicen. And that's kind of a general they, meaning just any old people, right? All my friends, all my family, anybody, right? They tell me that it's a marvelous country, the most beautiful in the world. But instead of saying in the world, they say of the world, the most beautiful of the world. They're comparing it. They're saying better than any place else. Okay, vale. ¿Alguien más? Somebody want to keep going with that?
Can I go to Marilyn?
Sure.
Ooh.
Can I go to Marilyn?
Sí. Dime. Question first.
Yes, I'd like to go back to one of the previous sentences.
Sí.
Me fascina la idea.
La idea.
La idea. You said it meant the idea fascinates me.
It does.
Would it be different if it said I am fascinated by the idea?
No, it would be the same.
Okay.
What it means is that I'm not fascinating anybody. I'm not doing any fascinating, am I? I'm not dazzling anybody with my brilliance. But that idea, it grabbed my mind, right? So if an idea grabs your imagination, it's me fascina. Like, I like, it's pleasing to me, it fascinates me, me fascina.
And can you say the pronunciation again? It's idea.
Idea. And that the de gets the punch. Idea. Actually, it punches the same syllable that we do. We say idea, but instead of idea. It's E. We have to sound it out phonetically. Idea. And your brain so desperately does not want to say idea. Your brain desperately does not want to say that because you have learned since the time you were about 7 years old that that word is idea. And your brain goes into absolute auto drive with that word because it's spelled the same, but we say it differently. Idea. Idea. So if you have a hard time, you think that's such a small word, why do I mess up? You are normal, eres normal. Idea, 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 because your brain really doesn't want to do that. Ok, bien. Jeff, ¿quieres continuar?
Okay. Me cuentan que la gente es muy amable y que gozan de la vida cada día. Me dicen que exactamente a las 7 todas las noches en todas las ciudades y todos los pueblos. La gente sale, los jóvenes y los viejos salen de sus casas y dan una vuelta por la ciudad.
Sí, vuelta, vuelta, vuelta. Okay, whoa, you got stuck with a really long one there. Me cuentan. They tell me, again, it's just a different verb than me dicen, to change up the verb, right? So that you're not being super repetitive. Me cuentan. Me cuentan. They tell me que la gente, that the people are very
friendly.
Friendly. And we say people are, but gente in Spanish is a onesie. Yeah. I could have said las personas, que las personas son muy amables, but really la gente sounds more natural. The word for people is la gente. And even though it's a collective thing like team. Do you say the team are ready or the team is ready? I don't even know in English what's really correct. I say the team is ready. Yeah. It's kind of a collective noun, gente. La gente es muy amable. The people are really nice, really friendly. Y que, and that they. Y que gozan, and that they enjoy. Gozan is kind of a formal verb. Gozar is to enjoy. Disfrutar could be used, disfrutan, but then I would need a day. Yeah. So, y gozan de la vida. Oh, then you need de there too. Y que gozan de la vida, and that they enjoy life every day. Okay. They enjoy of life. It's just the way they put that in. It's what they use. Okay. Here's another me dicen. Me dicen. Me dicen que. Me dicen que. Me dicen que. Me dicen que. They tell me that. They tell me that. They tell me that exactly at 7 every night. And in all the cities and all the towns, pueblos, towns, smaller than a city, ciudad. The people go out. La gente sale, the people go out. You could say leave, but probably what you mean is they go out. They go out. The young people and the old people, they're telling you not just young people go out at night, but the old people and everybody. They're saying all ages. The young people and the old, they leave their houses. Salen de sus casas, they leave their houses. Y dan una vuelta, they take a walk. Vuelta means a turn around like the block. Then dar una vuelta is to take a walk. There are many ways to say take a walk, but you know, when you just mean like a tour, a stroll, it's leisurely. Dar una vuelta is, well, yeah, probably pretty leisurely. You know, you're taking your dog for a walk, it's dar una vuelta. You're just test driving the car, dar una vuelta, right? You're taking the kids out for a little walk, dar una vuelta. Dar una vuelta is not a hike that's long. It's a short walk, okay? You could say tour. Okay, dar una vuelta. Yeah. Take a walk through the city. Por does not mean for. It means here through or throughout. Take a walk through the city. This gives you the idea of leisurely, right? Something for pleasure. Here we go. Okay. Alguien más? Somebody else want to finish up that paragraph for us?
Sure, I'll do it.
And you were going to start at después.
Después de caminar por una hora, vuelven a la casa para cenar. ¿Qué imagen más hermosa?
And finish it up because we just got a short sentence.
Me parece que me va a gustar Italia.
Ah, bien, muy bien. Hiciste bien. You did well. Okay. Después de caminar, after walking. And it doesn't say after I walk, it's after walking. And where we use an ing here, it's después de. After that little word de, we cannot conjugate a verb. It has to go into the infinitive. And although we use ing, they do not, because any verb after the word de is a preposition. Any word after a preposition has to go into the infinitive form. So after walking for an hour, por una hora, we tell how long, por una hora, vuelven a la casa, they return home.
Come back home.
To eat, in order to eat. Para comer, in order to eat. Okay. What? This is an exclamation. What? Not a question, but what? What an absolutely beautiful image. What a beautiful picture. All these people just walking around, enjoying themselves.
Beautiful.
And the me parece is like me fascina, is like me gusta. It seems to me. I don't seem tired. I don't seem hungry. I don't seem lively. Something seems to me. So this image, this view, this experience, it seems to me, me parece, it seems to me that I'm going to like Italy. That is the hardest thing at the very end. Me va a gustar. Italy is going to be pleasing to me. We would never say it that way in English. But we haven't got the word like doesn't exist in Spanish. Because the word like, meaning you think something's great, you enjoy it, that like doesn't exist. So I have to say it as Italy is going to be pleasing to me. Me va a gustar. Me va a gustar.
Could you say gustarme?
No.
No?
Wow, no, you wouldn't. What a good question. Qué buena pregunta. No, I never hear anybody say that. It's always me va a gustar. That seems to break the rule, but nobody ever says that.
Okay.
It's always me va a gustar. I can't give you a reason. That's just always the way people say it. Okay, me va a gustar. Yeah. Va a gustarme. No, I never hear anybody say it that way. Okay. Bien. Fantástico. Okay, somebody else want to take a little quick turn?
I'll do one.
Trish, and then Nora, okay?
No me importa que hay mucho que hacer antes de viajar. Primero, tengo que hacer las reservaciones.
Perfecto. No me importa. Me importa is like me parece, like me fascina. Something matters to me. And here I'm saying it doesn't matter to me. No me importa. No me importa. I would like you to circle or highlight or star that phrase and circle all three of those words. No me importa. Here's how we really say this in English. I don't care. We really say in English, I don't care. In Spanish, the way you need to say that is no me importa. No me importa means it doesn't matter to me. It's not important to me. But in English, we translate it as I don't care. No me importa. I don't care that there's a lot to do before traveling. First, I have to make the reservations. Okay, bien. Nora, I'd like you to start off with voy.
Voy a pedir un asiento con ventanilla porque me encanta mirar el cielo y las nubes por la ventana. Yo sé que a otras personas les gusta el asiento en el pasillo para poder andar por el avión sin molestar a nadie.
Ah, bien. And we've got that wonderful word molestar, which doesn't mean what it looks like. Okay. Voy a pedir. Voy a pedir. I'm going to ask for, I'm going to order. This is part of that reservation process. I'm going to ask for a window seat. Asiento con ventanilla. That's the way you say window seat. You could say seat with a window. And ventanilla, that illa makes it smaller. Instead of window, ventanilla. Because the window you get in a plane is not so big. Okay? Ventanilla is any kind of a passenger's window in any vehicle. Ventanilla would be in a car. Ventanilla could be in a train. Ventanilla could be on a plane. Ventanilla could be on a subway. Although, wow, subways, usually they're bigger, aren't they? I think. Okay. Entonces, so I'm going to ask for a window seat. Porque me encanta. And me encanta is like me importa, is like me fascina, is like me gusta. Me encanta, it just magnifies gusta. Instead of saying I like something, I love it. Okay? Me encanta. I love to do what? I love to look at.
See the sky.
El cielo. I love to look at the sky and the clouds through the window. Por la ventana, through the window.
Why they don't say, I'm sorry. So they're talking about this like con ventanilla, and then this one is like you use ventana.
And then, yeah, por la ventana. Well, and then they're just using it kind of like in the general sense. Okay. If I'm near any window, I look out the window. Yeah. Okay. Yo sé que. I know that. Here que means that. And that is connecting another idea. It's connecting the idea, telling what I know. Yo sé que, I know that other people like the aisle seat. This is the aisle seat. El asiento en el pasillo. You could express that as el asiento del pasillo. You could use del instead of en el. It would be equally correct. Other people like the aisle seat. Para poder andar, to be able to do this. To be able to walk around. Por el avión, to walk through the plane. Por el avión, around the plane, about the plane. Sin means without bothering anybody. And here we have an a personal. Linda, here's the a personal, without bothering anybody. Wait a minute. Nadie means no one. Well, even though no one doesn't exist, sort of, right? Nadie still refers to people. So it still needs an a. And the molestar does not mean molest at all. It means bother, annoy, aggravate. Yeah. Bug, without bugging anybody, without bothering anybody. Molestar.
Pregunta, Marilyn?
Sí, dime.
The yo sé que, where you say, I know that, can you just say, I know other people like the aisle seat and leave out? Or does it always have to be yo sé que?
It's always got to be que. Because Okay, and now I am including information. I could say, sé montar en bicicleta. I know how to ride a bike, and notice the difference. I know how. Sé montar en bicicleta. Sé tocar el piano. I know how to play piano. Sé arreglar una computadora. I know how to fix a computer. Sé cocinar salmon. I know how to cook salmon. If you know how to, it's say and a second verb. Okay? Say and a second verb. But if I know information, I'm going to connect. What I'm doing with that word que is I'm saying I'm bringing in a mini sentence. And I'm bringing in a mini sentence that says that people like. So whenever I bring in a mini sentence, and we call that a clause, if I'm attaching a mini sentence to the idea of I know information, then I need that word que. We skip that word. We skip the word that in English very often. When I connect a new sentence fragment in Spanish, I cannot omit the word that. I have to include the word that. Okay. Magnífico. Okay. La parte, I'm gonna speed this up a bit. I'm gonna read here. La parte que me encanta más. This is okay, it gives you some listening comfort. La parte que me encanta más, the part I like the best, es la hora de la comida. Is
meal time.
Eating time, meal time, yeah, see. La azafata. Azafata is kind of this is kind of an old-fashioned word.
Like attendant?
Yeah, it's
stewardess.
Yeah, stewardess, yeah. La azafata nos pregunta. The stewardess asks us, la azafata nos pregunta, asks us, nos pregunta, ¿qué quieren ustedes? What do you guys want? Le contestamos, we answer her. The le is referring back to azafata. Le contestamos, we answer her with pollo por favor, chicken please, o pescado or fish, o prefiero carne por favor, I prefer meat please. Nos dan, they give us. Nos dan lo que pedimos. They give us what we order or what we ask for. Lo que is what? Literally that which. You're never going to say they give us that which we order. You're going to say what we order. And what is not part of a question. It's not what's your name, what's the time. It's I'm telling you what you need to know. So it's not part of a question. Therefore it becomes lo que. Lo que is what they use when in what is not a question. Nos dan lo que pedimos. They ask us what we order. Y por un rato hay silencio en el avión. And for a while, rato means a short while, a short period of time. And for a short period of time, there is silence on the plane. Mientras los pasajeros comen while the passengers eat. Si es largo el viaje, if the trip is long, nos muestran una película. They show us a movie. Y también podemos escuchar música. And we can also listen to music. Con los audífonos.
With the headphones.
With the headphones que nos dan, that they give to us. Yeah. Nos dan to us, they give, that they give us. Yo misma, I myself, that's a woman talking because she uses misma, not mismo. Yo misma, if you're a man, you would say yo mismo, I myself. Yo misma prefiero leer. I myself prefer to read. O escribir. Or write.
To write.
Pero a muchos viajeros, but many travelers, Les gusta mirar la película. They like, many passengers like to watch the movie. Mientras otros duermen, while others sleep. Okay. No puedo tardar más. I cannot delay. Yeah. Tardar is to delay. I can't take any longer. I can't take up any more time. I can't take more time. Primero voy a escoger. First, I'm going to choose. Primero voy a escoger una buena fecha, a good date off the calendar, right? Fecha is a date off the calendar. Que me va a traer suerte, which is going to bring me luck. Okay. Después voy a comprar un tiquete de ida y vuelta. De ida y vuelta, you should think of as a whole thing, a whole package. It means round trip. Tiquete de ida y vuelta is a round trip. It means going and coming back. Ida comes from ir, vuelta comes from volver, to return. Y un vuelo directo, and a direct flight. Okay. Finalmente voy a arreglar. Finally, I'm going to arrange solamente una maleta, arrange for just one suitcase. Para no cargar mucho, to not have to carry a lot. Yo sé que una buena experiencia me espera. I know that a good experience awaits me, is waiting for me. The experience of traveling is doing the espera, waiting. Okay, maybe I am waiting for it, but it awaits me. Okay. Bien. If you did not do so, I would ask for next week, see if you can answer in a conversational way these questions that are on the next page. You've got a whole list of vocab up here. And at the bottom of that next page, if you didn't think about those, ponder those, see if you can answer it. There is probably no one way you have to answer those questions. And that's why I want you to think about those for next week. There's no one way to answer them. There, you have many, I mean, well, you're going to answer them based on what that El Viaje article says, okay? But the ways you can express those facts from what you read might differ. The way you, the way you choose to phrase it won't necessarily be just one way. ¿Me entienden? Understand me? See? So in other words, you know, they ask, does she like this idea? There are many different ways you might respond to that, but still get the idea across. Okay. Muy bien. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do? We're going to take a look at something. I will be giving you this, the link to look at this in the email. But I want to take some time with this. We're going to practice a lot with this next week. You will be practicing with this a lot, talking. You're going to be talking next week using these two verbs. And I'll give you some ideas to translate for the homework as a follow-up. And you can go back and look at these. And I would, in fact, encourage you to go back and look at this. We're going to take a look at two verbs. This is a vocab thing, not a grammar thing at all. It's a grammar thing in that one of the verbs is a little harder to conjugate for one form. No biggie. We're going to look at llevar. Llevar has a whole bunch of meanings. And traer. Why are we going to look at these two verbs? Because one of the meaning, well, there are many meanings for llevar. One of the meanings for llevar is bring. However, if you do a Google, como se dice bring en español, they may also give you the verb traer. As a matter of fact, traer will probably come up first. Sometimes we translate the idea of bring as llevar. Sometimes we translate the idea of bring as traer. And English speakers confuse the two. And it annoys Spanish speakers that we confuse the two. Okay, but llevar doesn't just mean to bring. It means a lot of stuff. So first we have to pause and look at what does llevar mean. ¿Qué quiere decir? ¿Qué quiere decir? Two verbs together. Quiere decir, wants to say, means. Quiere decir. ¿Qué quiere decir llevar? Okay. Llevar means a bunch of different things. I could use llevar to talk about getting into this vehicle and driving somewhere. I could use llevar to talk about having a purse slung over her shoulder. I could use llevar to talk about this dress or this mask. I could use llevar to talk about how long has she been standing there and why isn't she taking that taxi? Okay, so I'm going to give you the whole thing. This one link, because you'll get this as a link, is going to take you through every single one of these slides. Okay, so it's all in one place. Okay, llevar, regular, yay, it's a regular verb, so you don't have to think real hard about how do I conjugate this. Llevo, llevas, lleva, llevamos, lleváis, we don't worry about, right? Just in Spain, llevan. Perfecto. Okay. Muy bien. So, super fácil. You're going to watch this. He's going to give you a whole bunch of uses of llevar. I almost gave you a separate video, which is actually a little bit better, but she uses a lot of past tense and it might confuse you a little bit. Okay. Less past tense here. So he's going to take you on some, but not every single one. Not every single one, because there are like, this many things llevar can mean. No joke. So, okay, how do you know? Because of the other words that go along with llevar, that's how you know. So llevar might mean carry or bring, what she's bringing with her. In other words, whatever you have, if I had pockets on my shirt, right? Whatever it is I'm carrying in those pockets, I would use llevar to talk about. I'm carrying this crap. I got stuff slung over my shoulder. I would use llevar to talk about what I'm bringing along. Okay, so anything that means carrying, transporting, having it on your person, we'll use llevar. Llevar might mean to drive somebody someplace. What are you really driving? Are you driving the human being? You're driving the car. But see, because llevar means to carry or like take it in your hands, well, and you're moving it from one place to another, right? You're carrying it through space and time. You're moving it from one place to another. Think of llevar as transportar, transporting, right? When you take somebody somewhere, you are moving them from one place to another, whether you take them by the hand and walk with them or put them in the car and drive them. You are helping transport a human being, and that's why that still stays llevar, whereas we plug in take or drive, okay? So for the first example, la mujer lleva un bolso y su celular. The woman is carrying or taking her cell phone and her purse. Bien? The second llevar for taking could be something like el taxi rosado, that pink taxi. El taxi rosado lleva a la mujer al trabajo. Lleva a la mujer. Lleva a personal. Takes the woman to the to work, al trabajo, to her job, to work. Lleva a la mujer al trabajo. Llevar might mean to wear. I will preface this and caution you. Llevar is used to say wear a little more in Spain than Latin America. But if you used it in Latin America, they would know what you meant. La mujer lleva un vestido de rayas. She's wearing a striped dress. Y una mascarilla, and she's wearing a mask. And there's a different, people use mascarilla, little mask, because a full mask would be like, you know, for, you know, holiday thing, for party. But tapabocas is also used for mask. Tapar means to do this. Tapar means to do this when you cover. Okay. Tapar is used when you've got like a screw or a cork that it covers a bottle opening. Okay. So tapabocas is covering up your mouth. Tapabocas means the same thing as mascarilla. Tapabocas. Okay. Bien. So bring or take or carry something with you. To take somebody somewhere, to wear clothing. In Latin America, it's a little more common to say, tengo puesta una blusa. I have a blouse on. I have it on. Tengo puesta. I have it set on me. But just so you know, llevar can be used for clothing. Depends on where you are regionally. Llevar. He's got these people in his back seat. Carlos las lleva al centro en su taxi. Carlos las lleva. Well, you can see. We know that las is talking about who he's taking, right? He takes them. Carlos las lleva al centro en su taxi. Oh, maybe you are moving stuff for somebody else. Carrier, take along. El hombre lleva las bolsas de comida para la mujer vieja. The man is carrying the bags with food for the elderly lady. Okay. Oh, maybe you're lugging along because you're moving all that luggage. La familia lleva muchas maletas al mostrador de aerolínea. The family is taking a lot of suitcases.
Luggage.
Yeah, luggage. To the counter. Mostrador is just the counter. Wherever they're checking in, right? Mostrador, that's the counter. You go to weigh it, right? Airline counter. It might mean about what you're taking along with you on your trip. Take along. Llevo muchas cosas para un viaje a la playa. I take lots of stuff for a trip to the beach.
Trip to the beach.
Yeah. Okay. A ver. So those are some examples. Oh, you might physically be picking up. You don't think about that if with your cell phone in your hand or your purse, but you might be actually physically moving stuff with llevar. You might be. La pareja, la pareja lleva, it should be lleva, perdón. I had it as people. I'm going to go back in there and change that. So, la pareja lleva el sillón a la sala. I started it as the people, and I changed it to pareja. I need to change my verb. La pareja lleva, it should be lleva, no en at the end. El sillón a la sala. They're moving the chair into the living room, right? Oh, muy importante. Llevar means to go. I'm not sitting drinking my drink. I'm not sitting eating my food. I'm to go. This is universally, I don't care what country you're in, used to indicate to go.
Okay.
Take out food. And now more than ever, it's important to know the word for takeout food. ¿Quiere el café para llevar o para aquí? Do you want that coffee to go or for here? Para aquí, for here. Para llevar. And now just para llevar, to go. Para llevar. but they'll use it as para llevar. And quiere because they're not going to talk to you like your best buds, right? They're serving you. They're serving you and the 10 other people behind you in line at the Starbucks, right? So it's like, well, let's move it. Quiere el café? Quiere el café? They're not going to bother to say usted. Quiere el café para llevar? Do you want para llevar? And they might just say para llevar, to go. And drop it at that. Es posible. It is possible. Okay. You're going to get a second video to watch. This one I found doing some funky things on sound. Traer versus llevar. One of these ideas is that llevar can sometimes be used with the context of bring. And that's why we've got this video built in, which you will watch later. Traer, whether you and here's the part that bothers Spanish speakers, and they're like, why don't English speaking people get this? But we don't. If you want to say bring, and you look up bring, the dictionary is going to tell you, number one answer, traer. But that's not necessarily right. Bring, sometimes you need to use llevar, sometimes you need to use traer, okay? They're going to talk about that. We're going to show you one thing. We're going to seg out of this for a moment. Un momento. I'm going to stop there for a moment because this business of traer, whether you use traer or llevar, is a thing. And I'm going to show you one segment out of that video, because if I don't show you this segment with the little stick man, it might go over your head in a blip and you won't get it. Here's what you need to get. Whether you use traer or llevar depends on your point of view. And this is hard for the English speaker. Okay. You're going to see an A and a B and a sick person, an A and a B and a sick person. You're going to say, what the heck are they talking about? Well, here's what they said. Jorge and Luis are talking about a barbecue. Okay? Jorge is the guy having the barbecue. Here's Jorge. Jorge is the stick guy. Jorge is the one, he is the host. Okay? If Jorge is on the receiving end, right? Jorge is the host. He's going to ask him to bring something. He calls his buddy, Luis, and he says, vas a traer las cervezas mañana. Are you going to bring the beers tomorrow? Vas a traer las cervezas mañana a la barbacoa en mi casa. Dude, Luis, you bringing the beers tomorrow? I'm hosting the barbecue. He's going to use traer. So the person doing the request uses traer. Whoever makes the request, here he is making the request. You use traer. Luis is on the other end of the phone. Oh, claro que sí. Sure. Yeah, sure. Claro que sí. Yeah, sure. Yo las llevo. I'll bring them. Okay. Luis is the bigger stick guy. Luis is the one who is going to pick up the beers, carry them, move them in space, and say, Jorge, I got the beers. The guy who picks up the beers and moves them in space expresses this idea as las llevo, them I'll bring. But in English, we use bring and bring. In Spanish, you don't use bring and bring. In Spanish is vas a traer. I want them, but I don't have them. I don't have them yet. Vas a traer, are you going to bring? But the person who actually picks it up and moves it, they use llevar. Las llevo, I'll bring them. You bring it, I'll bring them. We use bring and bring. They don't use bring and bring. Why does this annoy them? I don't know. But it truly kind of does annoy people. When we get it wrong and they go, oh, los ingleses, los que hablan inglés. Yeah, the people who speak English, they don't get this. Okay, so you're going to watch that movie, but this may kind of go over your head as this huge blip. And so I want you to pay attention for the person requesting is kind of the one that matters. So I'm going to show you one last thing that's on this thing. And you have to think about the perspective. And here's the perspective with llevar and traer. If you are picking this stuff up and moving it to a different place, use llevar. You're bringing it over from the givers, you. Le llevo a María una botella de champán. I'm bringing a bottle of champagne to her. Le llevo a María. The a María tells who the le is. Le llevo a María una botella de champán. I'm bringing her a bottle of champagne. I am taking this bottle with me in the car and I will hand it over to her. I have to use llevar because I'm the one who's carrying it. But traer from the POV, point of view, of the person requesting it. Tráeme una copa más, bring me another drink. You're talking to the bartender. Tráeme una copa más, bring me another glass. Por favor. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
So Marilyn, could it be as simple as traer is whoever makes the request, llevar is whoever fulfills the request?
Yeah.
Whoever fulfills the request. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're fulfilling, because the person fulfilling the request has to pick it up and carry it over and then set it down there. Okay. That's exactly it. The point of view determines. But in English, we say bring and bring, bring and bring, bring and bring, and it doesn't matter. It matters to them. Yeah. So I want you to think about that. And, and this is going to show you some other things. I think I need to actually move this into a different position because this has nothing to do with llevar and traer. So I will move this into before this part. Llevar can also, you'll see in the video, one thing I do want you to pay attention to is he's going to use llevar and talk about, llevar talking about spending time, like how much time you're spending in a place. And that sometimes uses llevar, so I want you to notice that. And then at the very end, I would like you to try to post 3 sentences using llevar, not llevar and traer, not llevar and traer, but llevar, just llevar in 3 different ways. And what you'll do is in this little box at the bottom, it'll say share your thoughts, and you'll just type in like 3 easy sentences, 3 easy examples, but 3 different things: carrying, moving, taking somebody somewhere, any 3 examples, right? Don't make them term paper. Simple ideas, okay? And when you come into class, I will prep some ideas for you to work with in small groups, on llevar, to talk about using llevar in these different ways. And I hoped to get to pedir and I did not. Perdón. So I didn't get to pedir and preguntar, but we'll take that next week. Okay. So you got a chunk of things to work on with llevar. Bien? Are we good? Because llevar is a super, super common verb. So I will kind of mix it up and give you examples to talk about in small groups and see if you can, and these are going to be conversational examples. Like typically what you would say is, I want my sandwich to go. If you order something, right? Or take me to the airport, right? Or take your passport with you. Simple ideas is what you'll be working on next week when you come to class. Bien? Are we good?
Yeah.
Fantástico.
Yep.
Okay, eso es todo. I think that is it. Oh, I went over. Perdón. Sorry, I went over. Okay, there we go. Aquí, here we go.
So good.
They'll all be very conversational uses of llevar, which is so common in talking to people. Okay, and the only one that might be a little bit hard is if you want to say, I am spending X amount of time, but he'll talk about that in the video. Okay, ¿está bien?
Bien.
Magnífico. Que tengan buena semana. Have a good week. Que tengan buena semana, ¿verdad?
Gracias.
Gracias.
De nada. If you come up with any questions in the middle during the week, shoot me a quick email. Can answer it fast. Bien? ¿Vale?
Bien.
Muy bien. Hasta
Gracias.
luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.